Grazie. Should I switch to English? Scusa, io vi parlo volentieri in italiano torinese, ma mi fanno parlare in inglese. Comunque, so I'll start in English. Well, thanks a lot. It's a great pleasure to be back here, back in Torino. And can we have the lights a bit down? Possiamo abbassare un po' le luci della sala. While you were speaking, I actually was adding the slide on Rome, because I wasn't planning to show the project we did in Rome. It's a bit like an old project, but I just opened it from another presentation so I can share it with you. Now, I called the title of my presentation Sensible Cities. We do not like much the idea, the name of smart cities. And we think the sensible is more human. It talks more about people and how, you know, we can have it, we can, yes, use technology, but we can react and respond more to people. So, just a few things about what our group does. Now, I wanted to start with an example. And this example is from Formula One. Now, just a few years ago, if you wanted to win a Formula One race, you needed a good car and a good driver. You need good physical things. Now today, if you want to win a Formula One race, you also need something like this. A system which is made of thousands and thousands of sensors onto the car, collecting information, sending it to those computers, and making decisions in real time. In other terms, if you're an engineer, you would call this a real-time control system, which is very simple. It's a system made of two components, a sensing component and an actuating component, collecting information and responding to that information. Now, and sensing and actuation is really what we do most of the time, what every living system does. When we meet each other, we sense each other, we shake hands, we look at each other, we touch each other, and then we respond to that. Now, the amazing thing we believe is that what is happening now is that our cities are starting to behave a little bit like the Formula One racing car. Our cities have been covered, layered with many, many different types of sensors and networks. And so they're starting to behave in a different way. The way we can collect information from cities, the way we can respond to that information, is changing very much. And we believe cities are important. Just 4 numbers about cities. 2, 50, 75, 80. Cities are 2% of the surface of the planet, but they're 50% of the population, 75% of energy consumption, and 80% of CO2 emissions. So if we're able to do something to make our cities work better, then that can be a big deal. You will also ask me, well, all of this is fine, but you know, where is all this technology going to lead us, to take us? And I'll try to answer that by quoting Paola Antonelli. She's a curator at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and she recently did an exhibition called Talk to Me. We were actually part of that exhibition, and the theme was really that because of this technology, our cities, our buildings, our objects are starting to talk back to us. So what we can do is actually have an architecture that can become much more responsive. They can really respond to us in a different way, almost as if every atom out there of the physical world were becoming both a sensor and an actuator. And you know, if you want, that's nothing else than the old dream of Michelangelo. When he sculpted the mosaic, he took the hammer, as you know well, threw it and shouted, "Why don't you speak?" And today, for the first time, actually, our things can start to speak back to us, talk back to us. Now, I just divided the presentation into 2 components. One is called sensing, about the collection of information that we couldn't do just in the recent future. And the other one about actuation, how we can actually respond to that information. Now, about the sensing, I wanted to share with you, for instance, a project we did recently in the United States. It's based on the following problem. Now, if you take this computer, you know everything about this computer. Every chip in this computer, you know where it was produced, you can see it there on the map, how it moved on the planet, how it became this machine. However, a few years from now, when you throw away this computer, you know what to do about it. When it becomes waste, sometimes it ends up like this. where you wouldn't want it to be, like maybe in places in Africa or in Asia. So in other terms, today we know where our objects come from, but we don't know where they go. So our idea was, well, what if we could actually develop a little chip that we could put on trash and then see where trash goes. So here is the little chip. We had to develop it, to do it. We did it with Qualcomm, together with them. There was nothing we could get really off the shelf, so we had to design it from an engineering point of view. Then this was the first deployment we did in Seattle. 500 people in 3,000 pieces of waste. Can we have? Yeah, every possible thing. And then following that, after tagging all of this, we started tracing it. And here you can see 3,000 traces from Seattle. That's a city. The day of deployment. You can see some of the main landfills next to Seattle after a week. But then a big surprise. Actually, a lot of stuff started traveling very, very far, from the west coast to the east coast. And look at the trace that went actually all the way to Chicago and then went into Baja California, sometimes in completely random way. And traveling very far, especially e-waste, cell phones and cartridges and other e-waste, batteries, still moving after a month or a couple of months. So, what did we learn from this? Well, the first thing we learned is, for an engineer, you take all this data, and then you say, well, I can design a better system, so you can actually make a more optimized system for waste management. The other thing that's important is actually that this information, if you give it to people, then you can promote behavioral change. Actually, one of the most interesting things that people told us, after seeing this, one person told us, I used to drink water in plastic bottles, and put the plastic bottles out of my door and think every day it would disappear. But now, I know that's not the case. Actually, the plastic bottles go just a few miles from home, and then they will stay there forever. So because of that, I actually decided to stop drinking water in plastic bottles. Now, the third thing actually that we learned from this project, that was rather unexpected. And that happened when a burglar came to our lab at MIT, installed a lot of stuff, including some of the tags that tell you where they go. And here is what happened. Well, this was an example of all this incredible amount of data we can collect. The amount of data we can collect today is staggering. If you take all the data that were produced from the beginning of humanity till 2003, well, the same amount we produced between the weekend and today, in the past couple of days. So that amount we produce now every couple of days. So, and this data is of many different sources. So you saw here is data that can come from sensors, like in what we have just seen with the trash, but it's data also that we all generate every day. It's the data that we produce when we go on Facebook, on Flickr, when we take pictures. In this case, our lab was one of the first ones to actually look at pictures put online and how they can help describe what is going on. So look at this, for instance, is Florence, and you can see to the left, you can see all of Tuscany, where people take pictures in Tuscany and then upload them to Flickr. All of this is public information, so you can see the top places where people, the top places where tourists go and take pictures. And then you can zoom into Florence and look at the center, and there you see the key places, Ponte Vecchio and the Duomo and so on. And then you can also zoom in all the way and you see the Duomo Battistero and see where people actually go. Now, then if you do something slightly more sophisticated, you can look at each picture, and then if you read in the header of the picture, you have the time when the picture was taken. So by using that, you can then do traces of pictures. You can see the first one, the second one was taken by the same person. All of this is public information, and you can actually look at how people move over space. So look at this. This actually shows you Italians and Americans as they move in Tuscany. Now, I've got a question for you. So, where are the Americans? To the left or to the right? Americans to the left, raise your hands. You need to make a decision. So, Americans to the left? Great. Americans to the right? Okay, well, the first one, the group one, so Americans are actually to the left. And you understand if you are from the United States, you go to Tuscany, you might go once in a lifetime or once every 10 years. And then, you go there and we go to